Episode number 305, Highlights from FILO 2021, Part 1. Let's do it.
This is the definitive podcast for helping you plan, create, and execute dynamic worship experiences at your church. Useful, practical content in the areas of production, worship, communications, first impressions, and more. This is Making Sunday Happen.
Hey guys, welcome to Making Sunday Happen. This is episode number 305 of our show. We're recording this episode of the podcast from FILO 2021 in Chicago. We have a booth here at the conference, and we're also networking and meeting a lot of you guys. And it's been a lot of fun this week. And I've had the privilege of interviewing some of the speakers and breakout leaders from this year's FILO. So I'll be sharing those interviews with you in this episode and next week's episode of the show. And first up is Justin Firesheets. Now, Justin has been on the podcast before. He is the production lead, or was the former production lead at the Church of the Highlands in Birmingham, Alabama. His role has shifted a little bit, so we'll be talking about that and everything that he does at Highlands and some of the stuff that he talked about at this year's FILO. So my interview with Justin Firesheets is on the way right after this.
We've listened to church staff and volunteers just like you, and we've responded with our most comprehensive and customizable version yet. It's stable, it's powerful, and it's easy to use. You'll find intuitive tools like Sermon Builder, customizable plugins, and a refined slide editor, all backed by our amazing customer support made of pastors, techs, and volunteers available when you need them. It's everything you need to create powerful presentations while saving you time. Introducing Media Shout 7.
Hey guys, I'm here with my friend Justin Firesheets from Church of the Highlands in Birmingham. Now, you were the production lead. Now you're the project manager, right? Tell me about that.
Yeah, well, it's a pretty awesome gig because I get paid 7 times as much money and I work only 20% as much. So it's a really good
I went into the ministry for the money. I know that you did.
Yeah, well, and I really started doing it because you only have to work on Sundays. That's the best part about it.
And only a few hours on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, from 6 or 7 in the morning to maybe lunchtime.
That's right. Just a little bit longer than the pastor. They get 20 minutes, which is
All I
fine.
have to do is beat him there.
That's right.
Because then he thinks I've been working a lot longer.
That's right.
And just stay a little bit longer than he has. That's really what FILO means. First in, last out. Just beat the pastor there and wait until his car turns onto the main drag, and then I can
lock the door and you're out of there.
That's how it works.
I love it.
Hey, after 12 years in ministry, you learn some stuff.
It's awesome. Well, we're hanging out at FILO, and this is old hat for you. You've been here several times, right?
Yeah, actually, the F in FILO stands for Firesheets.
Oh, it does?
Yeah.
So it's named after you.
A lot of people don't realize that, but yeah, I was actually Todd's inspiration.
Gotcha. So you did a talk last night on unity from the main stage. Give me a little bit of a snapshot of what you talked about.
Yeah, so this came out of a passage I'd read in Psalms several years ago, which talks about, in Psalm 133, it talks about there's this oil of unity that leads to blessing. It says how good and pleasing it is when brothers live together in unity. And it's like oil running down Aaron's head and through his beard and onto his robe. And in biblical times, your robe kind of symbolizes your identity and kind of who you are. And a lot of times we put on our robe every day the identity that we think we should have. I'm a technician and I can do this and I can do that and I'm good at this. And we want other people to see our Instagram page, and that's the identity we have. But really the anointing that flows from the unity, that now becomes our identity because it covers up that robe. And oil in the Bible signifies blessing and it signifies healing. And when we step into the anointing that comes from being on the same team, doing the same things, and we allow that to heal our ministry wounds of comparison, and I'm not as good as that guy, and why don't I get treated this way? That now becomes the identity that we can find security and calling in.
So sometimes there's tension between production and worship and production and IT. Give me some of the maybe negative tensions that might arise between those teams?
Well, and a lot of it is natural, because it's easy to be kind of territorial. Like I'm supposed to do my job and do it well, and I feel like you're in my way and keeping me from doing that. And that just becomes a natural fallback for a lot of us. The IT guys they're screwing up the stream. Why can't we get the web stream going? I've got a problem with wireless right now, or the Ableton computer is not working. It's because the IT guy, and why are automatic updates still enabled on this machine and it's shutting off on Sundays, right? There's a natural tension there. And the creative team never hits their deadlines. Why do they think that we just sitting around, we can change our event time to accommodate their schedule because they didn't edit it, or whatever. Or, the worship team, they're changing the set list after I did all the programming, and now we've got to change everything before doors open, blah, 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 blah. It's real easy for that to become a thing because we really focus on our areas instead of how to work with other people. It's just a natural thing.
Yeah. So tell me how maybe some practical steps that I can take personally to ease those tensions, to come together, to be unified with my team members.
Yeah, really, honestly, I think sometimes one of the biggest challenges for us folks in production is feeling empowered to have the necessary conversation. Sometimes we assume a lot of things, like I assume there are certain expectations being placed on me that we have to do this, or it needs to be a certain way, or we can't do it like this, or I can't talk to that person, or they're not approving my budget just because they don't like me or whatever. And so we assume these things instead of actually initiating the conversation with our leadership to get clarity. And so now there's this gap of expectation and reality. And I've heard it said disappointment is that gap between expectation and reality. And a lot of times if that disappointment is too great, that's what leads to some resentment of why is this happening to me? And now I become bitter against the people around me, when really all I needed to do was have a conversation to get clarity in the first place, And if I feel like I'm not being given a fair shake, or they're not honoring my boundaries on my off time, instead of just sitting here and stewing about it and getting upset and internalizing it and chewing on it over and over and over again, I need to take the step to have a conversation and talk with my leaders to get clarity. And I need to bring other people into my life that can give me guidance and counsel and perspective instead of me just sitting there chewing on it all day long. Like, there's more that we can control than we think.
Yeah, that's a good point. So how do I take the initiative? You mentioned, having the conversation. How do I step into that? What are some solutions that you can give me to create unity?
Yeah, and I mean, it's as simple as, number one, I just need to be willing to reach out to whoever is managing me. Or if it's an issue with somebody that's at peer level, maybe I'm peer level to a worship leader or somebody else, I need to initiate the conversation. And it may be difficult and uncomfortable, but the idea of confrontation, to confront something, just means to turn towards it. It doesn't mean it has to be angry and high-pitched and we have to yell. That's not what confrontation means. Confrontation is healthy. It means we're willing to turn and face something that's there. A lot of times we think that it's purely a negative thing, but I just need to be willing to have the conversation and say, here's what I'm feeling. I want to assume the best about you and your intentions. So I don't want to assume that you're putting a negative angle on this. But I really would love to get some clarity and talk through this because I want there to be a healthy relationship. I want to make sure we're able to work together, okay? Make sure I'm doing whatever I can to serve you and your team. Or if I'm talking to a boss or a supervisor, I want to do whatever I can to take pressure off of you, for you to have confidence in me that I can do my job. But I just need to get some clarity on exactly what some of the expectations are so that I'm not assuming I know what you want me to do. Yeah. So I need to be able to lead in that conversation. But then the other piece that's hard, it's necessary, but just being in a relationship with somebody that can just be a friend, whether it's on staff, whether it's somebody that I meet at an event like FILO or, somebody else in my church community in the town that I live in. I need to have people that I can talk to and get advice from that are walking through the same things in their ministry. Hey, here's what I'm dealing with this service prep stuff. You have to deal with this. Have you walked through this before? Do you have any advice? And having other people that we can talk things through with that understand our world is a big deal. Yeah. Because now it's like, okay, they get me. I can share what's going on. They've been there before. They have some context. They understand all this. And now as I'm able to process through it, That's some of what keeps it from staying internal and just becoming this wound of bitterness and resentment. Because if that stays and doesn't get dealt with, then over time I'm going to become cynical and negative towards the leaders and towards the ministry. My heart's not going to be in it anymore. And then before you know it, I'm just here punching the clock every day, just doing a job. Right. And I've missed out on the opportunity to be a vessel for some supernatural anointing to flow through me and really impact the things that I'm doing.
What if it's not received well? Even if you're calm, even if you're, have gathered your thoughts, are really organized, and you have that conversation and it's not received well by your peer or your supervisor?
Well, the hard part, it sounds kind of overly churchy, is, the turn the other cheek mentality. But I've always been a proponent of the idea that my first job is to examine myself. Are there things that I'm doing that I need to change? Is there something I need to be doing differently? And if I'm having a conversation with a leader and maybe it doesn't go the way that I think it should have gone or could have gone, now I need to really take a look at myself and say, okay, do I have blind spots? Is there something that I need to work on with how I present myself, with my attitude or my perspective? Like, is there something in me that I can change that I need to work on first before I start having this expectation that other people around me work on things too? Because maybe that's the problem. Maybe they're not willing to play ball with me because there's a perception or a reputation that I have, and people are like, why would I want to play ball with that guy? He acts like so-and-so, whatever. And now it's even more important to be in that relationship with people that can watch my back and say, hey, you were kind of a jerk in that conversation.
Right, that's what I was going to ask you, is how do I know my blind spot? Where do I go to figure that out?
And again, that's really just the importance of having those healthy relationships with people that I work with, or family members or other friends that are maybe even outside of ministry that can say, that have the freedom to speak into my life without me being defensive and angry about it, and that's a hard, like as a technician, sometimes we can get really defensive and feel really insecure when people challenge us, quote unquote, or they give feedback about things, because a lot of times our identity is tied into performance, how good of a job we do. And so if we're hearing feedback from people that make us feel or seem less than perfect or awesome, it can feel like a blow, like, hey, I didn't do good enough. Right. But we have to separate the feedback from our identity as a person and say that, I'm not defined by what I did. I've got a security and a calling because of how God made me and who He sees me as. But as a human, there are always going to be areas that I need to work on. Yeah. And I've got these people in my life that can speak into me, and I need to be able to listen to that so that I can be the best person that I can.
What are some other tips on unity that you shared?
Well, there's an important piece in, I've talked a little bit about, when you're by yourself, you can't really be thinking about, the negative things or whatever. The kind of the comparison thought to that is, instead of dwelling on some of the negative things that may have happened to me in my ministry or in my personal life or whatever, I need to constantly remind myself of the good things. I need to be grateful for the blessings that I've got in my life, the relationships I have, the opportunities I have in ministry, and remember the fact that, before creation, God knew the whole timeline and expanse of humanity, and He knew that in this year, at this time, in this particular ministry, there was going to be a need. And He created me to meet that need. Like I could have ended up anywhere in humanity, any country, any era. I could have been in the Middle Ages, but He put me right here for a very specific reason. Like I have a calling on my life, and nobody can do what I can do better than I can during this season. And I need to be confident of that, knowing like, hey, you know what? There may be this thing that I don't agree with or I don't like or whatever, but man, I'm grateful for the fact that God chose me to be here to do that. Like He's got a plan for my life. Yeah. And I could be somewhere else doing something else, but instead I'm right here, and I need to focus on the things to be grateful for instead of complaining about, man, I wish it was different. I wish it was this way, and I wish it was like this church I saw on Instagram, and this guy I know gets this, and that person that was on stage at the conference, they talk like, well, you never know what's different about everybody's circumstance, right, what they're dealing with behind the scenes or in their personal life. You got no way to know that, right. But I do, like I can go into any situation. I can't control what's happening to me, but I can control my attitude my effort, my perspective. And sometimes those are the things that I need to be focused on.
Let's wrap up this way. I think that unity is really, really important, especially as we move forward. I mean, now is the time where, we, with coming back into church and where we're going as a church, I mean, we need to be a tight-knit team to move forward and be effective. Give me your thoughts on that and just the importance of being together on this mission. There's no time to waste, really.
Yeah, biblically, we're all parts of the same body. We've all heard that. And different parts of the body don't get jealous of other parts. Like the spleen is like, man, I really wish I was a fingernail. A spleen would make a really weird fingernail. You have this squishy thing out there. So we all have something specific that we were called.
That was a good one.
Something specific that we were called to do. But now just in the reality of where life is, there are blurred lines now between teams like there never have been before. I mean, okay, yeah, we used to have beef between production and IT, but everything's on the network now. We're essentially the same team, just in different expressions of it. And we're not a tech team and a worship team. Like, if I'm working together to create this atmosphere of worship, we are all the worship team, regardless of whether you're on stage or you're in a booth in the background. The difference between production and creative, I'm a tech, I'm not really creative. Bull crap, you're not creative. Yeah, you are. We are all creating something from nothing. Like, I've got this gear in front of me and I'm making it work and I'm helping create an experience. And even now in the online world or the COVID world where we're recording something and creating it in post or whatever, like, teams are becoming one large expressive team, and just everybody's roles are a little bit different, but we're all essentially doing the same thing. We're trying to create an experience where people can encounter the presence of God. And I think we have to see our roles that way instead of, you're on that team, I'm on this team. No. We're on the same team. Just what I do on this team is a little bit different than what you do. But at the end of the day, we're all trying to accomplish the same thing.
Good. Well, man, thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Hey guys, Carl here. I want to tell you about my ebook, Pastor First, 15 Ways to Win the Hearts of Your Volunteers. Pastoring your people is the secret sauce to building a dynamic volunteer culture at your church. You have to care more about who your volunteers are becoming over what they do on your team. In this ebook, I share 15 practical ways to make people your first priority in your tech ministry. From knowing their name and their story, to scheduling intentional time outside of serving, to how to set them up for success, this ebook gives you a practical guide to pastoring your people well. Pick up a copy today at 1230.media/books. You can download it straight to your desktop or your favorite e-reader. I pray the book will give you some steps to show your team that you care more about them than what they do on your team.
Hey guys, I'm hanging out with Jono Hall from Sardius Media. Why don't we start with you telling me what Sardius means and is, and then tell me a little bit about what you guys do.
For sure. It's great to be with you. Sardius is a stone in the book of Revelation. It's a red stone. So if you've got a New King James, it's going to talk about the jasper and the sardius stone. And the sardius is a deep red stone, and it really represents the passion or the love of Jesus.
Awesome. So you guys are a media platform that you help live events, churches create online experiences. So I want to make sure I'm getting that right. So walk that out for me, and then I have several questions for you.
Yeah, we're an online video platform, really comprised of two different parts. One is all of the online interactive experience around a meeting. So church meetings all over the weekend, and then on the back end it's the video CMS, so we can host and organize thousands and thousands of media assets. So we come from the ministry world where we're serving churches and ministries all the time, and we love it. I mean, we see it as a calling.
So I was talking with your team. It feels like you're kind of a combination between church online platform and Vimeo, but kind of a step up. Would I be right in that?
Yeah, I mean, we love Church Online. We love all the platforms out there. But I think there's a number of different cookie cutter, really easy on-ramp platforms that people are going to be, Church Online for free, and a number of others they're paying $50, $100 a month. But they come to a level of like, okay, we want to do this and this and this, which this platform doesn't allow. And sometimes the answer is, well, we'll get our development team. And we've gone beyond, we've built out. We've been down this road before with a number of different bigger multi-site churches, ministries, and we can provide that for way cheaper than you hiring somebody else.
Right. So Sardius takes Church Online platform beyond, and it customizes the experience. So if I'm a church looking to enhance my online worship experience, you guys are going to provide more bells and whistles, more customizable tools for me to do that, right?
Basically, yeah. I mean, it's going to look and feel exactly like you. Design is such a huge thing for so many bigger ministries and organizations. It's how they project themselves to the world, and we can say, hey, we'll give us your design team, design exactly how you want it to look and flat. We'll basically build the UI around your design. It's going to be hosted on your website. You won't see Sardius there as part of the URL.
So tell me about that. So one thing that we've talked about a lot is that your website should be your anchor point that you send people to. So you can have your live stream, on a Facebook or YouTube or other platforms, but to send people to your website gives you an anchor, a place that you own all the content around. Mm-hmm. Would you agree with that and kind of talk around that?
No, absolutely. I mean, YouTube, Facebook, they need to be part of your strategy, reaching out, but you're hosting on their ecosystem. Right.
That they own.
Yeah, that they own, and they're going to monetize for their purposes. Right. For you, it's like, how are you engaging with your people and bringing people to your resources and knowing your people? Right. And, one of the things on the back end, we can connect with your church management system, and then you can really know your people. Right. If you saying, hey, we're going to have a conference in a couple of weeks, and we want to put a registration wall with ticketing, no problem. We can do that as well. And then you're going to get even more analytics back. And so you're just increasing that knowledge of your own people, and then giving you the ability to serve your own people better.
So let's walk through some of those features. So you guys not only can do an online worship experience and take it beyond and take it to the next level, but if I'm doing a men's event, a women's event, a conference at my own church, things like that, you guys can walk that entire process out. Mm-hmm. From ticketing to archive, right? Mm-hmm. Walk me through that.
Yeah, I mean, we basically provide services in two different ways. We do bespoke events.
Bespoke, right?
Bespoke.
Bespoke. Explain that term. What does that mean?
I mean, we're sitting here at FILO, so we are serving them this week. Last week we did the Alpha Leadership Conference in London. They have their weekly services, but then they're having their annual conference, and reaching tens of thousands of people. And so on a weekly basis, on a monthly contract, you can have your internal team build stuff on the platform. But you might be like, okay, we're going to do an event with 100,000 people. We need a little more muscle. We need project management to come in and guide us through best practices for how to serve 100,000 people for this event. And our project management team can come in and help with the interactivity, build the respective watch parties, the different custom journeys that different people can have. So if you're having a men's conference, you might be like, okay, we want a pastor's track and a unique experience for pastors as they come in. We might want to have a unique experience for all the young men in that men's conference. And that might be different design, it might be different breakouts, it might be different watch parties, it might be unique experiences. So we're going to have a one-on-one coaching with this particular, and we'll say, okay, all young men, each individual will have a little countdown to the little time of counseling with a person, and so you can have just a lot of kind of customizable experiences per audience segment or even per individual as people come into the event.
So as I'm building this for my church, do I take modules? How do I craft that landing page?
I mean, in terms of, it depends if we're building it for you or if you're just building it from the platform. In terms of like a very kind of customizable look, and you want it to look exactly like this, we would basically just take your design and we would just build that for you. Although we do have a number of different templates that you can just basically grab it and be up and running. I think last year Bayside, they took it and it was like a couple of days and they were running all of their weekend services on it pretty quickly. They added their own little bits of CSS and the ads here and they were up and running really quickly.
So on a main of, let's say, online worship experience landing page, there's a couple of things that I know I have to have. I want a big video player. I want a chat window. And then maybe I want a notes section, and then maybe I want, to interact in some way. So let's go back to the chat feature. Tell me some unique features that you guys provide that takes chat to another level.
I mean, we do some similar things to Church Online, but we do some additional things. I mean, one of the things that we add is watch parties. If you've got 100,000 people, you don't want 100,000 people in one watch window. Or even if you've got 10,000, you might want to say, hey, let's have a cell group leader or a zonal pastor or something be the moderator. And then he has a lot more interaction with smaller groups. A lot of times, because we have SimLive built into the platform, you might have the actual presenter who's actually presenting, actually being the moderator to the group and being able to interact around the content that's happening there. But we've also got, in that chat window, we've got polls and trivia and direct like moderator connection. So if you want to have offline prayer in that chat window, emojis, your YouVersion connected in, no problem. So there's some similarities with the Church Online, but then it just takes it a little bit step further.
Tell me things like clipping. Walk out what that would look like. So
on the back end of the platform, we have this pretty robust metadata feed engine for displaying thousands and thousands of assets. Part of that is we have this clipping tool. Basically, if you are having your weekend services and somebody might say something cool, or there's a highlight and it's the program's still running live, you can clip that out, maybe throw it onto social media, or it might be you've got a whole evening of speakers that are getting up and you want to clip out this particular talk and throw it onto VOD. You can do that immediately. So if people have missed what's going on, you can make lots of different clips and then put it wherever you want to put it.
You could do it like a sports replay, and we're going to look at the tape.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Well, what are some other features that you guys provide that would really customize my experience?
A lot of our clients, I mean, if it's just a one-off event, you're not going to have that many VODs. But one of the things that I've always encouraged people, a lot of ministries have got 20 plus years of assets, and we work with ministries of like, hey, you've got 10,000 video assets here. You want to do them on YouTube? That's great. They need to be searchable. But you might want to really train your people in particular things, and so people can come in and they're like, I really need to study the cross. What's all the messages that we've done on the cross, or something a little more esoteric of like, oh, I just said something about Genesis. Where's all the messages that you've taught throughout the years on Genesis? And so you can come in, and because it's such a kind of robust engine in terms of metadata, you can really put in as much as you want in terms of speakers and topics and genres and categories, and provide something which is people can come back to on a regular basis to train and to be equipped. Yeah. And then you're going to have all the back-end analytics. So, well, it needs to go to that big audience. How do you go deep and know your people and equip your people? Yeah. You can do that with that VOD.
I think VOD, like if I'm doing a men's conference or some type of singular event through my church, that would be an area that I would, consider a VOD maybe. Awesome. Well, man, I think that you guys provide a great service to churches and to ministries alike. So way to go. How can we get in touch with you? How can we find out more about you?
Yeah, just go to sardius.media. That's our web address. And go to contact us and let me know. I'd love to walk through the system with anybody who checks in.
Great, Jono. Thank you for your time, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
The show notes for this episode are available now at makingsundayhappen.com.
Hey guys, thanks for checking out the show this week. Next week on the podcast, I'll share more interviews from my friends at FILO 2021 in Chicago. And in 2 weeks on the show, I'll welcome Grant Norsworthy. Grant is from New Zealand. He's a worship leader and musician. He spent time with the Paul Coleman Trio for years, as well as the band Sonic Flood. And I'll be talking with Grant about how to make epic virtual choir videos. So you want to be here for that in 2 weeks on the show. So FILO next week. Again, more interviews from FILO and Grant Norsworthy in 2 weeks. But I'd love for you to check out our website, 1230.media, for ready-made media content, as well as custom media and training for you and your team. Well, go out there, guys, and create some incredible worship experiences this weekend. I'll catch you next week.
Making Sunday Happen is a production of the ministry of 1230 Media. For show notes, archive episodes, and more free resources for your church, visit makingsundayhappen.com.